What's going on, guys? BladeZilla here, and today we're taking a look at this super fancy, super fresh, brand new addition to the Shirogorov lineup, and one that a lot of people have been asking for geez, a little over a year now, I think, year and a half, since some full customs dropped of the Astrum design. And so here we go, the first, hopefully, of many versions of the Astrum production model. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So grab a Coke, beer, wine, whatever you want, coffee, depending on the time of the day. And, this is going to be cash. So sit back, relax, and let's take a look at this beautiful Astrum First Production from Shirogorov. As a reminder, everything or most things on this YouTube channel are available for sale on my website, which is BladeZilla.ca, where I just added some T1000 V2s, and we've got a ton of Shirogorov stuff on that site as well. It's in Canada, shipped down to the States, that's not a problem. But mostly, we're trying to ship it in Canada. So yeah, if it's there, it's ready to rock and roll. And we will have some of these on the site, hopefully shortly. So, okay, where do we start? I don't even know where to start, but let's go over some of the basics, and then we'll kind of compare it to some custom divisions, and kind of just, who knows how long this one's going to go for today. I get a feeling it might be a little longer, and I apologize for that, but it is the nature of the beast. Let's start off, get some measurements on this bad boy. So overall length, we are 8 and a little bit more than 3/4, 8 and 7/8. I don't know what the technical spec sheet says, but it's, might even be a stretch to 9, somewhere under 9 inches. Blade length should be just a hair under 4 inches sharpened, which I like. A lot of restrictions at that 4-inch line, and the blade is literally like a mil less, but to the center of the choil, a little bit longer. Handle, 4 and 7/8 kind of thing, to the end of that little kick out on the back spacer. Weight-wise, we're going to do that at the start of the video, instead of the random point in the video where I mess things up and have problems. So we're going to do that right at the start. So let's get this guy on here. Actually, let's get a second fold on this guy. Zero it off. And we'll start with the grams for Canadians. 107, we were zeroed, right? Yeah, 107, 108, and 3.8 ounces. Wow. 3.8. So we are under that magic ounces-inches ratio, for those who don't know. We like to have, I think it was, what's his name there in the States? Anyway, 3.5-inch blade should weigh about 3.5 ounces, and same thing for 3-inch should be 3 ounces, and 4-inch should be 4 ounces. That's kind of the magic ratio, the magic formula. And this guy's just under that, which tells me, oh, she's a winner. Let's just take a moment and take a look at this. So we'll kind of walk head to toe here, and then go over some specs on it and some interesting things that we can notice, and then we'll compare it with this bad boy, which I do happen to have, the Astrum Custom Division, where there's a lot of similarities, yet a lot of differences between the two. So pretty cool to have that. And we will talk about that. I don't have any other Astrums actually beside me, so that'll be the main one, but that's kind of what the design is based on. So come along and let's enjoy this. So first things first, Magnacut blade. How good does that look? Love the little window up top here. I always call that like the fighter jet cockpit. It looks so good. Nice long drop point as well, very usable. Certainly very usable. And then we've got some real nice kind of angles cut into the top of the blade here. Some nice bevels, which just add to the entire profile. And then it's certainly, I'll tilt it this way, It's certainly usable to go down to the end of the blade because it's still got a flat top on it at points, but it's very rounded to kind of look dainty, thinner, minimalist. You can kind of just see that with those big bevels on it. The first production is in fact Magnacut. I'm assuming that you would have known that going into this video, but it is written on the blade there. And looks terrific, by the way. Very consistent. And for you know who you are, there's that nice little angle you like. Very nicely done. So Magnacut blade looks great. We've kind of got like a very delicate stone wash to it. It is not, it is a flat grind as well, but it's very thin. I think the blade stock's 3 mil. It wouldn't floor me. Yeah, it's 3. It's got to be the same as the custom division, which let's take a look at that now. Side by side, I believe we are looking at the same thing. So there's that. We've got some nice jimping up on top here for your thumb. Very usable, very nice. Very minimalist as well, this whole knife. It's just very pleasure in hand. It's not too big, not too small. That's what she said. And it just fits nicely. And that jimping, very minimalist, right? Just like the top of that blade, that small use. It's just very, very minimalist. So we'll go down next. There's nothing hiding in here that I'm aware of. Any information. The MRBS. If I remember correctly, it was written inside here instead of up top here. So we'll take a look there, if I can find my little light, which seems to be eluding me this second, but I'll grab it right here. I can see it. I thought they put it in the tip on one of these sides. Yeah, there it is. So it's written inside right here on the edge there. So hopefully the camera can pick that up if I throw some light on it. MRBS, that's multi-row bearing system, which is Shirogorov's kind of premium production as well. I guess they do have it in some of their custom divisions. There seems to be an exception to every rule. But multi-row bearing system, it is, if we take their standard or single row bearings, think of it as a bearing in a track. Their multi-row bearings are kind of 3 balls or 2 in a row in a pinwheel pattern. And that adds kind of structural contact integrity between the blade and the frame. And it also means really smooth in layman's terms. Sorry. Absolutely incredible action, and it just floats home. Nice detent. Now, so we got multi-row bearings out of the way. Let's take a look at this frame and the design itself. Let's see what we can kind of see here. As a total joke, you know, I was going to make sense of this little bulge down here as a B for BladeZilla. But obviously that has absolutely nothing to do with the pattern. But for me, it does now. I kid. So we've got some really complex milling going on here, and something that I don't even know if the camera is going to pick up. There's a lot of detail on these bevels here that are high-level micro milling that I don't even know if the camera's going to see, but my eyeball can barely see it. It'd be the kind of thing that I'd take some photos of and throw on my Instagram to kind of just show the contrast between the micro milling on the top and the flats. You know, they do a good job of making this kind of appear like it kind of sinks down. That is a huge pivot as well. It looks big. I love the raised surround to it as well. And once again, you look around there, you see all the complex detail of that milling that's in there. And if you remember my original, I think it was a sprint run, I would just talk about the bear claw. Would be this right here. And you know, the bear claw may be gone. And maybe I'll show that by itself so the camera doesn't freak out. Kind of adjust the light a little bit. You know, I called that the bear claw, right? And the spirit of that was, you can see how it kind of sinks down, and it looks and appears to be sunken in, but it's really very flat still. It's just really cool design. And once again, custom division is a different level of money overall. So just keep that in mind. So they've kind of kept the spirit of that and maintained that kind of sunk down feel to it with a nice lip. And kind of done that on the other end. Remember, this is a production knife. Lots of steps involved to kind of make a custom division. And a lot of wastage. Whereas these guys, they're able to punch out more of them. And quite honestly, the tolerances that they're making these knives now just keep going tighter and tighter and tighter. I don't know how they're going to not throw things out. Flip it over here and see, once again, all kind of around here, we've got that multi-stepping on the milling, as well as that beautiful milling up top here, and it's all, hopefully, I'll try to focus right on that and get the camera to get some good light. Hopefully you can see all the milling lines. Nothing is like this on the market in production price point. Honestly, there's a few that are close, getting closer. That big pivot as well. The surrounding looks good. They've kept all the, like, from here up, it's an Astrum, right? And then they kind of simplify it, keep a nice flat, and then once again transition to that back. We'll go to the other side and take a look at that. So we've got a flat top, which looks great, and then the B for BladeZilla, obviously. I don't know the point of that. Obviously, they're adding milling around that screw to kind of strengthen it up. They did not add a bump above that screw. I'll tell you that. They've done that in the past on a lot of other models, which might interfere with the design. But I do like how the bear is on the back here as well instead of on the blade. I always love that. That whole area looks fantastic. Looks terrific. The 5 stepping on these little spheres look terrific. And that is a direct, you know, if you remember the 110 KS kickstop, it's kind of from that, right? So they kept that same design language. Looks absolutely terrific. And I've always loved that. You know, they didn't need to do that, but that to me is what makes it an Astrum, is these 5 little bumps. It's up top here, so keep in mind you kind of have a yin and yang thing going on. If we look at the back spacer, this guy is also titanium, I believe. Where we got here? I think it's titanium. I think it's like a stonewash tie, and it's a nice. You know what? From a contrast perspective, I really like the ano contrasting with the stonewash, and same with the clip. Right? That's Shiro does that. They take the clip and the back spacer, and they usually match the two, and it creates good contrast between the parts. And I will say this stonewash, I don't know what they're calling this, if they're calling it kind of like a blue, or if they're calling it a purple. It's kind of in between, or it's both. It wouldn't shock me if it was like a multi-stage kind of ano that they did to kind of make it look a little distressed, which is a total hit for, we know you're going to carry this knife, and we may as well get that process started for you to maintain the look. And I completely agree with that. You know, a custom division or a sprint run or a full custom, let's make that as crisp and as sharp and as bright as possible. Whereas production knives, let's make it a little more carryable and a little more worn in. You know, like a pair of jeans compared to a pair of dress pants that are nicely pressed. You know, that would be the difference. So really, really like the coloring on this. It's certainly muted. I've seen some photos that really pop the color to purple, and it's certainly more titanium with accents of blue and purple kind of throughout, but it's extremely consistent, which looks great. The clip looks good, very usable, and once again, behind the clip and underneath we have more milling, which just makes a lot of sense. And then we can see right underneath another screw head, which is attaching the internal liner as well. And then the screw for the clip is internal as well. All internal on this guy. So just really, really solid, really crisp, really Shirogorov design language. You know, the 2 blanks of the hardware on the back, the 2 screws on the front. Simple it's just a complete home run in terms of how they do their designs. The tools used for this would be something like a custom division tool or a, cyber tool. Personally, I use the custom division tool because it's got the reverse bit for some of the custom division knives for the reverse bit, but anything will do. They're also really cool and pop up at shows. But it is a production knife, but it is a first production knife, so to me it's typically a little more valuable than a standard production knife because there's less of them. And speaking of that, I don't know how many there are, but in the past they've been either 50 or 100 releases. So I'm assuming there's 100. They usually sell out really fast as well and tend to appreciate, as far as they're the highest appreciating highest appreciating production level knives. They tend to be the first productions, so pretty cool. And with that, you'll get the premium Magnacut blade, and future iterations will not use that Magnacut blade. I can almost guarantee it, unless it might be like a show knife, which would probably come with a coin and be more money anyway. I'm assuming, I don't know, I'm assuming the next version of this will be Stonewash tie and M390, and that's exactly what they did with the Stellar, which is a winning formula. So let's take a look at the rest here. So we've got obviously this liner lock with an apron, which looks super sick. The milling on that line on the lock bar is just super crisp, and once again it's raised. I talk about that all the time. Got excellent milling on this side as well, just comfort. You find it really easy, and we've got kind of like I always thought it was like 3 to 5 layers of milling that just really grab your finger there. It's very nice. On the inside, we've got tons of machining and pockets, right? You can't have a 4-inch blade without taking tons of weight out of this thing. So it should be pretty skeletonized inside, which it is. Big pockets missing of titanium. And at this price point, you'd expect that to be a pretty standard feature. Table on these, $13.50 US. I'm assuming, $1,500 to $1,600 US, no problem, is what they'll be trading at the first day they're released. And then beyond that, probably up. If we look under the back spacer, you can see it is also fully floating, I believe, so you should be able to see some gaps between them. The frames, see those 1, 2, 3 gaps on both sides. Pretty darn cool. Just the details, right? You would never even see that looking at it from this angle, but you do see it from the inside. So cool. Oh, lovely. Tolerances. Let's take a look at this blade and let's compare the tolerances on this one to a custom division. So 3mm blade, there is not a whole lot of room. There is your custom division. And remember, tolerances are ratcheted up one more tier on that knife. This might be some of the finest production they've done. That is very tight all the way around. From a fit and finish and feel perspective, it feels identical size-wise to the custom division, which we will throw together. Man, that Anno just loves to pop the colors on that camera. So dimensionally, they're the same. They feel the same. It's just more level of detail, right? The mirrored edge, the flats on the blade. The CD logo etching is worth $1,500 immediately as well. That's a joke, obviously. But just the detail, right? The poppier milling, the more detail on the pattern and whatnot. It's just higher finish, which is why it's a $5,000 knife versus a $1,300 knife. But this is the people's choice. You're going to sell a lot more of these, and just like the Stellar, when they launched the Stellar, it was a very popular knife, and everyone wanted it. So I think it's going to be one of those knives that's going to be tough to get. In hand, remember I am size XL glove, and I've still got an extra finger of room for the bear to breathe. So lots of room. I could easily wear this with a glove and not have any issues. So that's good. Definitely good. Now, if we're looking at how it compares size-wise to some of the other knives in the Shirogorov line, let's grab some production offerings currently. So we'll do the Stellar, which we've seen this guy on lots of display. We have our Neon, which is, this one's a Neon 0 as well. And I want you to pay attention to kind of the overall design language of the knife here if we compare it to the Neon, right? So a little bit of a finger hole, but then a nice smooth exit. Very similar on that Neon. I do want to find, where's my F95? So let's just move these up here. I want to find my, here we go. Here's a Quantum, just to show size and scale of this knife, right? It's pretty important. So quantum-wise, it's almost the same size. I might even give it by a hair to the Astrum to be a little bit bigger, but much thinner handle, right? That's the design language here that we're working with. So just keep that in mind in terms of sizing, because it's a big knife, and on paper you see 4-inch blade or 3.99-inch blade, whatever it is in millimeters, but it's really a lot smaller in hand than you think compared to the Quantum. Like, just look how thick that handle is. It feels to me like a big Neon. That's kind of what it is for me. Is it feels like a big, thicker, obviously, Neon with a liner lock. Which kind of makes me wonder, you know what? Like, could a mini Astrum ever pop up? Because to me, it's like, well, if you're going to refine the Neon, it's only natural to throw a liner on it. Like, that seems to be what the direction of how they want to do things is. So instead of the frame lock Neon, would they ever do a mini Astrum? I wouldn't complain, and I'd certainly be open to it. But I think the main things that we want to talk about from a comparisons perspective, it's not the Neon, it's not a Quantum, it's that custom division knife, which let's get that back on here. And like I said, this knife just freaks the camera out, like, right away. The color is just, it's got so much pop. So anyway, it really grabs the light. So obviously absent is that bear claw thing, that I call it anyway, but more than anything, the design language, it's less round on the top, whereas this is a little more rounded. And maybe it's easier to show that like this. If we really look at it, you can see how the design of it is a little bit more rounded, but remember, it is still a very flat top knife. It just gives you that illusion through all the milling and all that fancy work. Pay attention to the beveling on it. Pay attention to the milling on the drop here, as well as on the corner, right? Once again, looking at this guy. Let's get that blade in so I don't hurt myself. You know, still very flat, but that roll on it is kind of gone. So it's going to fit a little different in hand, okay? On the back side, let's take a look at that. Very similar. And I can probably zoom in just a smidge to show this. You know, we're looking at the identical clip. I don't see any differences between them. There might be a bit of polish on the corner of this one, but otherwise the same design. Liner is the same size. Pivot looks to be the same size. We still have the same kind of milling up top, up here. It appears to be going the same distance as well. And then down here, does it, I'm trying to look here. This one might push a little further down to that tip on that break, whereas this one ends a little earlier. So the milling on this corner is a little thicker kind of around. But design language wise, there's obviously some tweaks, but still we're very, very similar. Which is fine. Just totally fine. In terms of, I'm going to have to hold these. In terms of width, I think we're looking at the same thing all throughout. Right? Not a whole lot of difference there. It feels the same size-wise. And then on that back spacer, let's take a look there. The back spacer's a little thicker, I think, from what I'm seeing here. Just pay attention to that lanyard hole, which we haven't even talked about. Look how much more beef is on the lanyard hole. Let's hold it like this. Show it. Quite a bit thicker on that lanyard hole in the FP, First Production. But yeah, overall the back spacer's just a little bit beefier. And paying, you know, it's the tolerances, right? Overall, pretty cool. So I'm curious from like a, you know, like a Tim perspective, a friend of mine who really enjoys the Astrum. I'd be curious to hear his opinions on the First Production comparatively, because I know that when they first did the Stellar, I think he had the custom division and really likes the Stellar, and they knocked that out of the park. So I'd be curious to see tolerance wise what he thinks between the two knives, which now I'm looking at it, it might just be the gap on the frame. It might just be a little bit thicker of a knife overall with the same blade stock, which wouldn't shock me. Could be. You tell me. I just hold the knives. It's hard for me to actually see this stuff in real time, but just looking at the gap in the blades between the handles, there's certainly a larger gap on the left knife than the right. So you would think that the frame would be a little further apart, which would make sense on a production knife. So where do we go from here? Well, obviously fits my hand like a glove. I really like it. I should probably grab a pair of calipers and get the width on these at some point. But for that, I need to be organized and sorted, which I currently am not when it comes to these videos. I just kind of play it by ear. Milling looks great. The ano looks fantastic. I love the back spacer. I'm just noticing there's a lot of contrast between the clip and the back spacer. Everything just seems really well done, really well executed. I'm not having any immediate complaints on the knife. You know, lots of, you know, there's no hot spots. The clip falls into my hand quite nicely. The lock bar is super easy to engage and disengage. You know, I love the little details of this back spacer. How good does that look? And especially when you throw a blade in there. It's just so tight. If the camera ever wants to show that. It's just so tight overall, which is so cool. And then I love the lanyard hole in the Astrum design. It's just kind of, it's there, but it's kind of tucked in the back, and it's just really well done. The colors are a nice contrast all the way around. Well, I think I'm going to end the video there. I don't know what else I have missed, but if there's something I've missed, obviously leave it below. But I think Shiro knocked this one out of the park, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to get an Astrum as a result of this and enjoy the knife and experience kind of what I feel is like a large neon with a 4-inch blade with a liner lock. And cool color, you know, get it while you can with the Magnacut, because that's going to certainly go away. Just in general with Shirogorov on the First Production, because I can't see them sticking around with that. They really like M390, which is kind of the gold standard for production Shirogorovs right now, and You know, Magnacut seems to be reserved for very special models, and you know, it's a very expensive material to use in a competitive space like the production world. So to me, it makes a lot of sense. But pretty cool knife, really cool knife. Love the stonewash, love the pre-worn-in look on that ano. And I just think that they're going to sell an absolute boatload of these because it's just such a usable knife. It's you know, 4-inch blade, fits in your pocket nicely, good solid clip, multi-row bearings, good contrast. You know, you could show this knife to someone that doesn't spend money on knives and say, hey, this is what a $1,350 or $1,500 knife is, and they'll look at this and go, yeah, I get it. Like, titanium, well done, super sexy milling, tight tolerances. They'll get it. You show a custom division knife and say it's $5,000, they'd think you're crazy. But this makes a lot of sense in a very highly competitive space. So yeah, there we go, guys. I hopefully kept that under half an hour. I don't know. I don't have a timer on these, so hopefully that was good. Otherwise, you know, you can certainly scold me. Appreciate you stopping by, checking it out, and check the store. Hopefully I'll have some up soon enough. And yeah, visit Instagram, visit the site, BladeZilla.ca, TikTok, etc. Otherwise, send me an email and we'll chat. Alright guys, appreciate you so much, and thanks for stopping by. Peace.